Hello everyone! Welcome to part 1 of the Alice in Wonderland album tutorial. Okay, so first we're going to go through all the supplies that you're going to need. So we'll start with a couple pieces of medium weight chipboard. You'll need your cardstock. I'm using 8.5 by 11. I used, I think, 45 sheets, something like that. So if you're using 12 by 12, you won't need quite as many, but it does take up quite a bit of paper. You will need, well, optional actually is either Tyvek or duct tape. This is to some of the folds, the spine, places that will be getting a lot of wear and tear in the use of them. This is to reinforce those folds so they don't tear. And of course we'll need our paper cutter. You'll need some wet adhesive. I'm using Tombow Mono Liquid Glue. You will need score tape, your ATG gun. I mean, you could do score tape or wet adhesive with everything, but this makes it a lot easier and faster when I use this just for the application of the pattern paper. So you'll also need all your pattern paper, whatever you're using for that. You will need some foam tape for one of the pages. And scissors. One for fussy cutting if you need any fussy cutting done, and then a regular pair of scissors. You will need magnets, these thin disc magnets. These ones are, I believe, 10 millimeters by 1 millimeter. I usually use the 8 millimeter, but they have still not arrived. I ordered them over 2 months ago and they still haven't come, so these ones are a lot more expensive, but it's what I have, so I'm using them. And then you will need an X-Acto knife or some kind of blade, because we'll be cutting into paper. Ruler. I interchange my metal and my clear. You will need a scoreboard with your bone folder and your scoring tool. And you will need some kind of marker, Sharpie, we'll be doing quite a bit of marking, so a lot of the pages need really precise measurements, so we're doing a lot of that. And you will also need, well, you don't need this, but if you wanted to ink the edges of your paper, some distress ink and a blender. And I think that's everything. If I missed anything, then I guess we will find out as we start creating. So I'm going to move all this out of the way and we will get started. I forgot that you will also need either a crocodile or something to punch holes for your swing tabs, and something to use as swing tabs, whether it be metal embellishments or little bits of chipboard or whatever it is you want to use. We'll have quite a few swing tabs in there. So meet Zuri if you haven't met him already, and you will also need some brads. Okay, so I think now we have our checklist complete. This is nothing that you really want, buddy. Okay folks, let's begin. So we're going to be starting with your base pages. So for you will need 2 different sets of measurements here. You'll need 4 pieces of cardstock measuring 7 3/4 by 8 3/4. 4 of those, 7 3 by 8 3. Those are your A pieces. And then you'll need 4 pieces measuring 6 3/4 by 8 3/4, and those are your B pieces. Okay, so get those all cut out, and your A pieces we are going to score. So put them in your scoreboard along the 7 3/4 inch side, and you're going to score each of them at half and at 7 1/4. Okay, so half and 7 1/4. Now I just want to, right off the bat, tell you about, if you don't already know, you probably already know, but I'm going to tell you anyway. The valley mountain rule when you're scoring. So when you score something, you create an indent, which we call a valley. And on the other side, it is a mountain. So a raised edge is the mountain, and the indent is the valley. Now we always fold our score lines, turning the indent into a mountain. Okay, so your valley into a mountain. You always want to do that because it helps to keep the strength of the paper. If you go the opposite direction, so on the bump, if you fold the bump over, like the mountain over, it does something to the fibers of the paper so that it weakens it and it can crack or rip a lot easier. So always turn your valley into a mountain. So if there's ever a time when I say to flip your paper over, that's because that particular fold will be going in the opposite direction as the other folds, and that's why we have to flip the paper over, so you're always turning your valley into a mountain. Alright, so next we are adding score tape to all of the 1/2 inch sections that we just scored. And when you're applying score tape, always make sure that you do not go over your score line. Go up to it, but not over it. If you go over your score line, you're going to have adhesive in places you don't want adhesive. And things will be sticking to things you don't want them to stick to, and it's just a mess. So, go right up, go up to the score line, but not over it. Okay? So adding score tape to all of these, and unless otherwise stated, your score tape will always go on the valley side. So that's why I always add my score tape before I do the folds, so that way you know which side I'm talking about. So where the indent is, that's where you want to put your score tape, right beside the indent. Okay, there's going to be some times when it'll be on the other side, but I will let you know on those rare occasions. Alright, so we've got score tape on all of those. And now the other reason I put the score tape on first before folding or doing anything else is that we're going to want to miter all of our corners. Okay, so mitering just means going from the score line at an angle and snipping off the corner. Okay, so you're just taking off a little bit off each corner. And I put the score tape on first because then you know that your adhesive is right to the very, very edge. If you mitered the corners and then put your score tape on, chances are you'd have little bits that weren't, like, you know, see right here how it's not right to the edge? You'd have little bits that weren't completely adhered. So this way I know that I have adhesive right to the very tippy tip of every piece. Okay, so get rid of all of these little corners, and mitering the corners just ensures that when everything is put together that it's just really clean and you can't see, if you didn't miter the corners and you attach this to something, you might see this little bit poking out or something. So this way it's just a nice clean finish. Alright, get those out of the way. So now we have all of our corners mitered. And now we can fold on our score lines, turning our valley into a mountain. And make sure to always really crease down your fold, your score lines with your bone folder. And if at any point during this tutorial you catch me not doing that, don't do as I do, just do as I say right now. There may be times that I forget or I get lazy or something, but you should always fold on your, or you should always crease those score lines. Okay, got all those set up. Now bring in your B pieces for the base pages, and all you're going to do is stick A down on top of B. And that's all there is to it. I find it easiest to take the backing off one side first and line it up. And then when you take the other side of the backing off, you should be able to just fold it down and it should align perfectly. Alright, you've got your first base page. So it's basically a tube. Alright, so one end is going to attach to your binding system of the album, and then this end is going to be for a big pocket. Alright, so we will do the other four, or other three, to make four of them. Alright. I got 4 base pages. Yay! Alright, now let us begin with page 1. So keep one of your base pages out, put the rest to the side for now. Okay, I'm going to start by showing you what page 1 looks like, and then I will give you the measurements and we'll get started. So, you've got 2 little flaps that open and magnetize together. This part flips up. These can go back down again. This folds down, and then you've got 2 accordion style pieces that do that. Okay, so let's get started. I just wanted you to see what it looked like first. So your pieces that you will need are as follows. You will need 2 A pieces measuring 6 3/4 by 9 5/8. 6 3/4, 9 5/8. 2 B pieces measuring 6 3/4 by 4 1/4. 1 C piece that is 8 1/2 by 7 1/4. 1 D piece that is 8 1/2 by 5. And 2 little baby E pieces that are 3 1/4 by 2 1/2. Okay, so get all those pieces cut, and then we will start some scoring. So begin with your A pieces. That makes sense, right? Alright, so with each of your A pieces you will be scoring at half, where's my, and 9 1/4 along the 9 5" side. Sorry, out of frame there. So 9 5" at the top of your scoreboard. You're going to score at half, and you're going to score at 9 1/4. So do that to each one. Half and 9 1/4. And then we're going to flip the pieces over and score at 4 7/8. So the valleys are right here, the indents. Flip it over and score at 4 7/8. So that's just 1 tick before the 5 on your scoreboard. So right away that valley mountain rule is coming into play. right? So this means that our 1/2 inch fold will be going that direction, and this one will be going this direction. Okay? All right. So let's move this out of the way for a second and add score tape to your 1/2 inch sections. Now this one I know is a little bit snug here. So normally it'll always be a 1/2 inch section. This one is slightly smaller, so your score tape might go over the edge just a tiny bit. If it does, all you have to do is use your finger and kind of pull it back again, but just still make sure, come on, light, work with me here. I'm just trying to show you that it's still not over the score line. Okay, so now we're going to miter our corners. On both A pieces. And now we can fold on the score lines. So, valley into mountain. And so this one will be going the opposite direction. Crease all your score lines. Do it to the other one as well. So that's a valley, turn into a mountain, and these ones both go back. Okay, so this is what you should have. It should look like that. It should have the 2 little sections on the end. Okay, now bring your base page in. You're always going to want your openings to be to the left and right, and we are going to adhere these to the far sides. Okay, so one like that and one like that, and they meet just perfectly in the middle. So remove the score tape from just one side and adhere it to the far edge of your base page. Line it up as best you can. Okay, so that's one. Now remove the score tape from half of the other side. All right, there you go. You should meet in the middle perfectly. Now you're going to grab your 2 B pieces. Don't score those at all. They don't need any scoring. What we're going to do is remove the rest of the backing, rest of the score tape backing, and adhere your B piece. Adhere your B piece to your A piece, just like that, and that gives you your full accordion. Okay, and do the same on the other side. Ow, paper cut. Ow. Oh, the hazards of paper crafting. Ow. Okay, so this is what you should have. Alright, you've got a nice big accordion there. And now we will, oh, I'm bleeding. Now we'll work with your C piece. So get your scoreboard back out. Push this aside for now. And with your piece of cardstock on the 7 1/4 inch at the top, score it at 1/2 and 3/4. Okay, so C piece 7 1/4 at the top, score it 1/2 and 3/4 because we're going to make a little gusset, all right, because this piece is going to be going over top of all that we just put on there. So we're going to add some score tape to that 1/2 inch. Now don't put any score tape on the 1/4 inch gusset. So we've got that, where's the best lighting here? There we go, is that better? So we've got the 1/2 inch here with the score tape, and then leave that without any adhesive there. Alright, I might have to quickly go get a band-aid. I'm bleeding, look at me. Okay, I'm all fixed, folks. Don't worry. You don't have to call the ambulance or anything. I'm okay. Alright, so we've got our C piece. I'm such a nerd. We've got our C piece and we've got the score tape on it. We are going to miter the corners and make sure you do not go into that 1/4 inch gusset there. You want your mitering to just go from that score line, the 1/2 inch score line, to the edge. Okay? And now we're going to crease our folds. So both of them. All right. Now, get your ruler out and a pen of some sort, or marker, or whatever you happen to be using. Your score marks are going to be at the top of the page, and you are going to draw a line. So you want to mark the center of the page. So your page is 8 1/2 wide, so you want to mark at the 4 1/4 mark. Okay, so make a mark there. Don't worry, you're not going to see this, so it's okay if it's with a marker. And then we need to mark 3/4 up, 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom of the page. So, get it straight. Okay, so 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom of the page. And now you need to draw a 3-inch line. So 3 inches, so put your 3-inch mark right at the 3/4 that you've just done there. So draw a line up. Okay, so now you've got a 3-inch line in the center of the page, starting 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom. Okay, and now I recommend putting a piece of, this is a piece of Tyvek envelope, so Tyvek envelope or some duct tape or something like that on the back side of the piece to cover where that cut, because we're going to be cutting this out. We're going to be cutting an 1/8 of an inch little rectangle out of here, a little slit. So I'm just going to quickly cover this with some score tape. Okay, so remove the score tape backing from your Tyvek, and this will just, because we're making a little slit in there, a little cut, and because it's fairly close to the bottom of the page, we don't want it to rip all the way down to the bottom of the page, so that's where the Tyvek or the duct tape helps, so that it will not tear. Now this doesn't have to be exact. We know that the cut will be in the center of the page, so roughly in the center on the back side. Okay, and now we need to cut this out, so get your blade. I'm just going to get a cutting mat. Put your ruler just beside the line, because we're wanting it to be about 1/8 of an inch wide. And now put it on the other side of the line. I'm going to turn it so I can see my line still. So there we go. That might be a little bit bigger than 1/8 of an inch. It doesn't have to be quite that big, but it's not going to hurt anything if it is. Alright, so now, move this out of the way. Now we can attach this to our base page. So open up your trifold flaps and remove your score tape backing. And now this will go right at the top of your base page, and center it, because it's just slightly not quite as wide as the actual base page, because we want to make sure everything has room to move. So center it at the top, and should be right in the middle there. You should see the the center right here. You should see that through your hole. Okay. Alright, and now we can move on to the next piece. So next we've got our D piece. So we are going to score your D piece at 1/2 and 3/4 along the 5-inch side. So the 5 inches at the top, 1/2 and 3/4. Get your scoreboard out of the way. Apply your score tape to that 1/2 inch section, not going over that 1/4 inch gusset. And miter your corners. Fold on your score lines. Okay. Oh, I got a crack in my paper. That's not good. Ugh. And now we will put this on the bottom of the base page. So remove your score tape backing. And this goes right to the bottom. And now you need to make sure you line it up perfectly with this, with your top A piece. So all right, fabulous. So those are in line. All right, now we will work with your E pieces. All right, but first, with the flaps closed, draw a line using the slit that you've cut as a guideline. I'm still going to use a ruler though. And draw a line in that slit. Okay, so now you know that these are lined up. Okay? Because now we're going to take our E pieces and we're going to score each of them at half on the 3 1/4 inch side. And we're going to apply score tape again to that 1/2 inch section. And miter your corners. Fold on your score lines. And we're going to adhere these down to piece D where you've just drawn the line, and they're going to be butted right up against each other at the top of that line. Okay? So one to this side of the line. Okay, and make sure that when you close this, they go over top, and they do. Fabulous. So now we are going to add some magnets to these flaps here. So put a little piece of score tape in the center of the paper, going top to bottom, and about a 1/2 inch or so from the edge, and add 2 magnets. Put another piece of score tape on top of that. Hi buddy, hi. I hear you. No, 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 no. Come on, buds. Oh, sorry. And then fold your flap down. So now you've got magnets on either side. Okay. And now we will do the same to the other side. So I want them to be able to magnetize together up as well. Buds. Okay, I had to give my cat a couple minutes of snuggles or he would have never left me alone. Okay, so we've got our 2 magnets placed there. Now I've got 2 magnets on the other side here because I want all 4 of these magnets to line up. So I've got 2 just sitting there. There's no score tape yet. I'm going to put score tape on the back of the 2 together. Okay, close that down. So I'm basically just doing it in the opposite order. So I'm adhering it down to the D piece first. I'm putting some more score tape on top. And now we'll close that down. Fabulous. So now they both go like that. And they both adhere together so that when you close this, and now if for some reason you're not perfectly aligned and these aren't closing properly and it's getting stuck, all you have to do is make bring your slit down just a tiny bit further, or bring these up just a tiny bit further. So these should be pretty much at the top of your D piece. So you might have to enlarge this line just a tiny bit. It is a pretty snug fit. It just goes over. Okay? So just kind of play with it and see what works. Alright, and those are the only magnets that we're using on this page. Isn't that incredible? And so now we are going to add all of our patterned paper. I'm going to do the patterned paper for each page as we go, because there are a lot of pages in this album that require the patterned paper to go before you do parts of the cardstock. So I'm going to kind of go with the paper as we go. So I'll start with I think I called this your A piece earlier. It's actually your C piece. It's early in the morning and I haven't had a lot of coffee, so hopefully you're still following me. So I'm going to start adhering these down. So we'll start with this top piece here. Now, there are no names. You know, some papers have like names. The ones that I'm using don't have any names. So if you are using the Alice in Wonderland, all the different papers, I think this is from the Sassabee. I think I've got quite a few different downloadable papers that I'm using. So put that on there, and then of course we're going to have to recut this hole on the back. So bring your craft knife back into play here. We're gonna have to do this a couple times. We'll have to do it again once we add the other pattern paper, but if we do it one at a time, then you'll never lose where the hole is, because you need that template so that everything lines up. So that is out. And now if you are inking the edges of your paper, I'm inking mine with black soot, so you might want to kind of go in the edge a little bit with your ink blender and kind of put a little bit of ink around there, smudge it a little bit. Okay, and now we can open it up and do the back piece. So we'll put that on and then we'll cut the hole once again. And now your pattern paper is just being cut just slightly smaller than the piece of cardstock that you're adhering it to. So I will give you the measurement in just a second. Oh, I have to change my tape roll. Okay, so the front and this piece that we're doing right now, so both of your C pieces are just shy of 6 1/4, so 6 1/4 by 8 1/4. Okay, so 6 1/4 by 8 1/4, and that leaves a little black border around the whole thing, so adhere that down. And once again, cut out this slit, and again do a little inking in the edges just so you don't see the white. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. Oh, that's a little bit too much, I think. Just smudge that a little bit. I just don't like the white edge of the paper showing through. Okay, so there we go. I have got the 2 E pieces here. Where are they all? Okay, so I've got these for the front. These measure 2 1/4 by 2 1/2. So you'll need 4 of those, 2 for the front, 2 for the back. Oh, right, I'm going to stop this for a second because I need to change my... Okay, back in business. Make sure you don't have any adhesive going over the edge. If you do, just kind of push it behind, and down it goes. Do the other side. Okay, and now this D piece, you're gonna have to, so measure the, you're gonna have to do it in 2 pieces because you've got this in the center, obviously. So these pieces here that are going on D here, these are just both about 4 by 4. 4 1/8 by 6 1/4. Alright, so we'll put all these down. Now these could be slightly longer. There's a little bit longer of a border. This just happened to be what I had left. I try and use up all scraps, so if there's a piece that almost fits, I'll use it, or I will use it and do a little border if it doesn't quite fit. So I try to use up every scrap. I don't throw anything away until the very, very, very end. I try and use it all, because paper is pricey, so you want to try and get as much as you can out of it. Just adhered the patterned paper onto the trifold bit. Okay, and now I'm just about to add the last piece down here. So the trifold, it was 12 pieces of paper that were all the same size. So I just did it off camera so you wouldn't have to watch me put on 12 pieces of paper that were exactly the same size. And this piece measured 8.5 by almost 6 and 3. 6.5. So 8.5 by 6.5 in the center. All right, and there we go. We're done with page 1. That goes in like that, and that goes like that. Yay! Page 1.